Hello friends, in this video we are going to discuss about a chapter origin and evolution of life. As we know that the origin is what? That is the protobiogenesis. That proto they are showing the primitive, bio means the living and genesis means the formation. That is the origin of life on earth is known as a protobiogenesis. In the 11th standard we have studied the some basic features related to the origin as well as the living organisms. The growth, metabolism, energy transformation, responsiveness, reproduction, and death. These are the some basic features of the living organism, and to continuation of a life on the earth surface, these all the features are required. The lifespan of each and every organism is fixed on the earth surface because the continuation for the generation. Now, in this chapter, the various scientists have proposed the various theories related to the origin of a species. Now, the first theory, that is a theory of a spatial creation. The Spanish monk Father Sudres was first described this theory. According to this scientist, what? The God, supernatural power. The supernatural power which is accepted by all the religions, that supernatural power or God is responsible for the formation of life on earth. But though these Spanish monk Father Sudres, they have proposed this statement, but this statement is not accepted because of without any scientific proof. That theory was rejected. The second, cosmozoic theory or a theory of panspermia. This theory was proposed by the Richter in 1865. According to this theory, what? Life on Earth came from a distinct planet in the form of the spores or in the form of the microorganisms. These spores are called as a cosmozoa or panspermia. This scientist Richter, they stated that these panspermia are responsible for formation of life. But again, this theory is not accepted because they unable to prove scientifically from where the first life is originated. Next, the theory of spontaneous generation or abiogenesis. This theory was proposed by Aristotle in 600 BC, that is the before Christian. According to this theory, life originated from non-living material spontaneously. Louis Pasteur disproved this theory and gave a scientific explanation that life originated from pre-existing life. But this theory is also not accepted because again they unable to prove how the first life originated on the earth. Theory of biogenesis. Francisco Reddy, Spallanzani, Louis Pasteur, these three famous scientists, they disprove the abiogenesis, but this biogenesis could explain the first life on earth and they could satisfactorily explain the continuity of life. According to this biogenesis, the organism or life is always produced from pre-existing life. Here, that culture, they are showing the continuation of life, but again the question remains same, from where the first life is originated. Now come towards a chemical evolution of life, that is a self assembly theory for origin of life. According to this theory, life is originated by combining some chemicals through a continuation of a chemical reaction takes place in the long period of time. This theory was formulated by Haeckel. After some time, the detail explained by Russian scientist Alexander I. Oparin and a British biologist, that is the Haldane. The very famous theory that is proposed by the Haldane and Oparin, chemical evolution of a life. Here, this diagram you are showing the continuation for the chemical evolution of a life. Now, which are the steps? The first step, origin of earth and its primitive atmosphere, formation of ammonia, water and methane, synthesis of simple organic compounds, formation of complex organic compounds, formation of nucleic acid, formation of protobions or pre-cells, formation of a first life. Here, as the formation of or the origin of earth, in the first step, that was considered that earth was one of the part of the sun that was detached from the sun, and in the primitive stage it is present in the liquid form. Due to solidification process, automatically the temperature of the earth goes slowly reduced and the solid mass is get formed. That is the very initiative stage of the formation of the earth near about 4.6 billion years ago. In the second stage, that is the formation of the ammonia, water and methane. Here, the ammonia, water and methane formation, it will be occur. Here, the formation of a simple organic compound, that is nitrogen bases, amino acid, glycerin, fatty acid. These simple organic compounds are get formed. Then complex organic compounds are get formed in the form of the nucleotides, polysaccharides, protein, fats and the lipids. And in the next stage, they forms the continuity of the protobionts pre-cell, the DNA RNA formation. That is nothing but the indication of a sign of a formation of a life on the earth, the formation of DNA, RNA molecules. The formation of protein is nothing but the building block material of the life. They are also suggesting the sign for the formation of life on the earth. And this continuity from the origin of earth towards the formation of a pre-cell, which are chemo-autotrophic in nature, they leads to the biological evolution on the earth surface. That whole concept was explained by Oparin and Haldane in their chemical evolution theory. Now, this theory here was accepted, proved scientifically with the help of Urey and Miller's experiment. The Stanley Miller and his teacher, the Harold Urey, proved the experiment evidences in support of chemical evolution theory proposed by Oparin and Haldane. What they have done? They have done a glass apparatus with the spark discharge. The first sterilize it, inserted methane, ammonia, hydrogen in 1 is to 2 is to 2 proportion in glass chamber and supply by the electric charges. Here, that experimental setup of the Urey and Miller's experiment, which was a closed glass container apparatus. This apparatus here is made up of methane, ammonia and water in the 1 is to 2 is to 2 proportion. Instead of the sunlight, artificially, they have supplied this spark discharge apparatus having near about 7600 volt. A very high voltage is electric supply is applied there, and when they have started the electric supply, the condensation process is get started, and this condensation, whatever the liquid is collected in that, after the analysis of that liquid, they are finding the formation of the organic compounds which are prepared at the chemical theory of evolution, which was sentenced by the Oparin and Haldane. And finally, after the analyzing of these organic compounds, the Urey and Miller concluded that whatever theory of chemical evolution was proposed by Oparin and Haldane, it is a correct, because scientifically they have given a explanation. Now, the RNA world hypothesis. The Oparin Haldane theory and Urey Miller experiment give us understanding pathway that the origin of a life on earth from non-living material, that the like begets like, necessities presence of the stable genetic material, cellular mechanism to carry out the routine activities essential for the survival. We are also aware that the certain proteins which called enzyme catalyze the chemical reaction in the cell. In 1980, the Sidney Altman and Thomas Cage independently found that RNA acts as a biocatalyst. Here this diagram indicates the RNA world hypothesis. In the first step, RNA forms the inorganic sources. The secondly, replication. In the third step, they works as the catalyst. In the fourth step, formation of the changes in internal chemistry. And in the fifth step, RNA codes both leads to formation of DNA as well as the proteins. This catalyzed RNA, that is the ribozymes, and that was discovered by Altman Sage. They got the Nobel Prize for this discovery. The discovery provided important support for RNA world hypothesis, that is the early life have been exclusively leads to formation of nucleic acid, mostly that RNA. It was first proposed by Carlos, Francis Crick and Leslie Orgel in 1960, long after the discovery of the ribosomes. The RNA is not found abundantly in all living cell. Related to DNA, chains of RNA can evolve, undergoes the mutation, replication. They works as a catalyst for all the reactions. Here. Now come towards the concept organic evolution. This organic evolution, it is defined as a slow, gradual, continuous, irreversible change through which the present day complex forms of the life developed from the simple pre-existing life. Now the Darwin, as we know that here, the Charles Darwin, it is a very famous scientist and he have proposed this organic theory of a evolution of a life. According to Charles Darwin, in this theory, he have proposed the five postulates in his book Nature and its Origin of a Species. Overproduction, struggle for existence, organic variation, and natural selection, origin of a new species. This first postulate, that is the overproduction. In this nature, the each and every individual number is get fixed because they have to survive, and other organism also have to survive in ecosystem. For example, if a 2 lakh lays egg by the fishes in aquatic ecosystem, not all 2 lakh fishes will be get born, but out of that only the 25% will be get shows the new formation, and remaining automatically get destroyed because the other organism also have to survive. The single elephant is having a capacity to produce near about the thousand of elephant, but that is possible? No, that is not possible. Other herbivorous animal have to survive. Therefore, naturally, automatically, the nature has maintained the number of each and every organism on the earth surface. Automatically, overproduction will be get lost by the nature. The struggle for existence, each and every animal, each and every organism have to struggle for the survival. For example, sunlight, the highest gymnospermic plant which are finding in the Western Ghat region, they are showing continuous steep growing. Why? Because they are to capture the sunlight for their continuation of the life. They have to struggle for food, they have to struggle for shelter. Now the human is also having the struggle to grow complete and showing the life cycle in the well settled stage. Organic variation. This organic variation is showing the difference related to the geographical isolation. The dominant species in nature is automatically selected and the recessive species will automatically get destroyed, leads to speciation. That is the formation of a new species on earth. Here, that is the example of the overproduction, which shows the only some are get survive. The struggle for the existence, the organic variation, the natural selection. Here, in this natural selection, automatically the dominant species will get survive and recessive species will get here the suppressed. The formation of a new species. Here, this line of evolution you are showing, that is, we have already studied the kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia, which are the primitive, which are the advanced. In that outline, as we know that here, how the first life to the last advanced features are get formed. Now come toward the drawback of this Darwin's theory. Darwin considered minute fluctuating variation as a principal factor which are not inheritable and not a part of evolution. He did not distinguish somatic and germinal variation, considered all variations are inheritable. He unable to explain the arrival of the fittest. He only explained the survival of the fittest. He is unable to explain the inheritance and variation as well as the vestigial organs. He also unable to explain the extinction of the species. He also could not explain the existence of the neutral flowers and the sterility of the hybrids. Come towards the next theory, that is a mutation theory. This theory was proposed by Hugo de Vries. According to this theory, here the genetic changes, genetic variation is responsible to forms the different colors of the flowers on the same branch of the plant, that is the Oinothera lamarckiana. In Marathi we call it as the Gulbakshi. That is the plant here. In a single plant we are finding that various colors of the flower, and that takes place because of the mutation that shows inheritable sudden change. Which are the objections of mutation theory? Variation observed by Hugo de Vries were actually due to chromosomal aberration. The rate of mutation is very slow as compared to requirement of evolution. The chromosomal aberration have little significance in evolution as they are quite unstable. Now come towards the modern synthetic theory of evolution. The R. Fisher, J.S.B. Haldane, Dobzhansky, Huxley, Mayer, Simpson, Strabbins, Fisher, Swale-Wright, Mendel, Morgan. All these scientists, they have given the contribution in this modern synthetic theory, which based on genetic variation, natural selection and isolation. Now in this genetic variation, the change in gene and gene frequency is known as a genetic variation. This gene mutation here, this diagram here that shows the sequence in the triplet codon, and that mutation occurs in a single point, that is called as the point mutation or the gene mutation. Because of that mutation, the variation is finding genetic recombination. In sexually reproducing organism during gamete formation, exchange of genetic material occur between non-sister chromatids of homologous chromosome, where the crossing over takes place in the Pachytene phase of the meiosis first, and in that phase the genetic recombination exchange of genes takes place. Therefore the 50% new combination, 50% parental combination is there. DNA never shows the original set of the passing, always the replication process. Newly formed set will be get transfer. Gene flow, movement of gene into or out of the population. Gene movement may be in the form of the migration of the organism or gamete segment of DNA. Any random fluctuation in allele frequency occurring in natural population by pure chance is called as the genetic drift. This diagram here you are showing, that is the how the changes takes place in the species. Now the chromosomal aberration. Inversion, deletion, duplication, insertion, translocation. Deletion, loss of genes from the chromosome. Duplication, genes are repeated or double in number. Inversion, a particular segment of chromosome break and reattach. It is inverted in 180 degree. Translocation, transfer of a part of chromosome or set of gene to a non-homologous chromosome, that is a translocation. Here that diagram showing how the position of the segment will be get altered and forms the chromosomal aberration. Here deletion, the segment is get lost, segment is get inserted. Now the duplication, here the genes they will be get in the double manner. Inversion, going to change the position. Translocation, they are shifting the position. Repeat, that is the formation of 2 or 3 copies of the genes. Now, natural selection. According to Darwin, natural selection is the main driving force behind the evolution. This holds the genetic variation rise within a population. The fittest will be at the selective advantage and will be more likely to produce the offspring than the rest. The fit continues to enjoy greater survival reproductive, which forms the new species. This industrial mechanism, it is an ideal example of the natural selection. Here, these Biston betularia, that is the white colored moth, they grows on the branches of the trees. Just like the lichens pollution indicator, this grows where the 0 degree pollution is there. These Biston betularia, due to pollution, automatically the wings color of these moth is get changed, and at a certain stage that white colored wing moth, they are converted into the black milk. But due to this process of natural selection, that moth are get protected by the enemies. Because of the color changing their wings, they can be easily survive on the branches of the wood and leads to the dominant generation. That is the ideal example of a natural selection. Isolation, it is a separation of the population of a particular species into smaller unit which prevent interbreeding between them. The geographical and reproductive, these are the two main types of the isolation. Now, in geographical isolation, it is the also known as a physical isolation. It occurs when an original population is divided into two or more group by geographical barrier, that is with the river, ocean, mountain, earthquake, flood. These are the barriers. Due to that, the automatically the species separation is there, and these separated species, they shows the continuation as per the climate, as per the geographical condition where they have grown. The Darwin's finches, it is an ideal example of a geographical isolation. Now, reproductive isolation, which occurs to change in genetic material, gene pool, structure of genital organ, which prevent the interbreeding between the population. Pre-mating or pre-zygotic and post-mating or post-zygotic barrier, these are the two types of these isolating mechanism. Here, in this diagram, we are observing the reproductive isolation. And here, how the geographical condition, that formation of a river here, automatically they leads to separation of these two species, and whatever the climatic zone is present, soil structure is present, food material availability is there, that two species continuously grow as per the condition provided by them. Now, pre-mating or pre-zygotic isolating, that is again it forms the habitat isolation, that is they are going to change the habitat, geographic region. Seasonal isolation shows the members of the population living in the same geographic region, but they are sexually mature at different years or different times of the year. Ethological, due to specific mating behavior, the members of the population do not mate. Mechanical isolation, here the members of the two population have differences in the structure of a reproductive organs. The post-mating or post-zygotic barriers. Here, the gamete mortality. Gametes have a limited lifespan due to one or other reason. If the union of two gametes does not occur at a given time, they leads into the gamete mortality. Zygote mortality, here fertilized zygote die to one or the other reason. Hybrid sterility develops the maturity, they become the sterile organism. The mule, it is the example that is get formed due to the hybridization process. The gene from the donkeys and gene from the horse, they will be get united and the mule is get produced. Now, natural selection. It is a process by which the better adapted individual with a useful variation are selected by nature leaves the greater or more number of progenies. It is having three types: stabilizing selection, directional selection, and disruptive natural selection. Here, the stabilizing selection, that population acquired, that is having a mean character value. This graph is showing here the constancy in this population. Here, the less variation is observed in that stabilizing population. It does not lead to evolutionary change. The phenotype of the animal remains the stable. This population, it is called as the adapted population to the environment. Now, the directional population in this type, the more individuals are acquired other than the mean character value. Natural selection acts to eliminate one of the extreme of the phenotypic range and the favor the other. In this selection operate the many generation which result in a evolutionary trend in the population, and therefore that graphic change is there because of a addition of a new species in this disruptive natural selection. In this type, the more number of the individual acquired, peripheral character value at the both the end are disruptive cut. Two peaks are formed here. This shows the selection is a very rare. This kind of selection is rare. It ensures the effect on the entire gene pool of population. Now, Hardy-Weinberg principle. As we know that here, this what the law, that law state that the gene frequency and genotype, it remain constant from generation to generation, that is represented by p square plus 2pq plus q square equal to 1. This graph here, that when you are getting finding the equation, you will get this. Now, adaptive radiation, that process of evolution which result in transformation of original species to many different varieties, that is called as the adaptive radiation. The Darwin's finches and Australian marsupials, these are the examples of that. Here, this Darwin finches, you are finding how the changes is there. Example of adaptive radiation. Now come towards the next concept, that is the evidences of organic evolution. First, paleontological evidence, second, anatomical evidence, third, embryological, and fourth, molecular evidences. Here, the first, that is the paleontological evidence. The study of ancient life with the help of the fossil is called as the paleontology. That is the here types. Actual remains in this type, the animal, plant, or human body embedded in a performs of the Arctic or alpine snow and remain present in the its actual state. The body part of the plant animal get decay and the impression is remain. Cast, they have hardened the pieces of mineral matter deposited in the cavities of the molds, and the compression internal structure is absent, but a thin carbon film indicate the outline of the external feature. Here, mold, cast, petrified wood, the trace fossil, dinosaurs fossil have been shown in this diagram, carbon film fossil. Now, what is the significance of paleontology? It is useful in construction of a phylogeny. It is useful to study various forms and structure of extinct animals. It improves record of missing link between the two groups of the organisms. It helps in study of a habitat of extinct organisms. Now, which are the examples given in that fossil record? Here, Cymoria, this shows the connecting link between the amphibians and reptiles. Archaeopteryx shows the connecting link between the reptiles as well as the birds. That is the example of Cynoria, and that is the example of the Archaeopteryx, they gives here how the paleontological evidences are there and how they helps to support the study during the evolutionary line, during the primitive atmosphere of the earth, which types of the animals, plants, fossils present recorded. That paleontology branch, it is helpful to study these fossil record during which era, which period, which year these plants and animals was present, how they survive, and which type of the atmosphere was there. Now, anatomical evidence. It deals with the study of the external structure while the internal structure for the comparative study of morphology and anatomy. That is having a homologous organ, analogous organs, and the vestigial organs. Now, here, the homologous organs, those which are structurally similar but functionally dissimilar, these organs are termed as a homologous organs. For example, here the forelimbs of all the animals. Then in plants, the bougainvillea and cucurbita both are having the tendrils. But here, both the tendrils they are having a different function. The vertebrae of the brain and the heart. Here, these limbs they are showing here the homologous organs. Both they are having a different function, but structurally they looks like here the same. In the analogous organs, which are structurally dissimilar but functionally similar. That is, the example is given, that is the birds, all the mammals, modification, sweet, potato, root, they are showing here different structure, but their function is the same, that is the storage of the food. Here, wings, all the birds, they are showing the wings, different shape are there, but they are having a single function, that is the flying. Vestigial organs, the organs which are still present in human body or in any animal body, but it does not have any role, any working, any function, still it is a present in body. These organs are called as a vestigial organs. For example, here nictitating membrane, wisdom teeth, coccyx, appendix, here these all are the vestigial organs. It does not have any use, functionless organs. This appendix, it is also one of the functionless organ, but still it is a present in human body. These are called as a vestigial organs. Now, embryological evidences. When a comparative study of the development in different sexually reproducing organism is made, it is observed that the development pattern during early stage is similar in all organism, that shows a common origin. Development in sexually reproducing organism begins from a single, that is the zygotic cell. As we know that after fertilization, this zygote is formed, which leads to cleavage, blastulation, gastrulation formation, where three different germ layers are formed, and then organs and organ systems are get formed. This development is a similar in most of the all organism. Here, fishes, salamander, tortoise, chicken, and lastly the human. From zygote, this embryonic development shows here the very similarity. Now the molecular evidences. Cell is a basic structural and functional unit of the life, as we know that here, and the similarities in proteins and genetic material performing a similar function among the diverse organism, which gives the evidences a common ancestor. A basic metabolic activities also occur in similar manner in all organism, and the ATP, it is a energy source generated for that. Now the speciation. Formation of a new species from the pre-existing species is known as a speciation. The intraspecific and interspecific speciation. Again, the intraspecific is divided into allopatric speciation and sympatric speciation. Allopatric speciation, formation of a new species due to separation of a segment of population from the original population by distant or geographical barrier. If the mountain formation is there due to the earthquake, automatically here separation of species is there. The formation of species within a single population without a geographical isolation, that is the sympatric speciation. Here, this diagram you are showing the allopatric speciation as well as the sympatric speciation. Due to geographical barrier, automatically they shows the changes in morphology, phenotype of the new species, and the same geographical area they are not showing the too much differences. The interspecific speciation, that is the hybridization. The two different species on crossing may give rise to a new species, that is the mixing of the male donkey and female horse that forms here the mule. It is one of the example. Now come towards last, that is the geological time scale. In this diagram here you are going to observe how the earth formation is there, which are the different era, period, epoch, during which million year ago the plants and animals they are dominant on the earth surface. Near about 4.6 billion years ago showed the formation of the earth. The Precambrian era, Paleozoic, Mesozoic and Cenozoic era. Again the Precambrian shows the Hedon, Echion, Proterozoic. Paleozoic show Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Carboniferous and Permian period. Mesozoic era is showing Cretaceous, Jurassic and Triassic period, and Cenozoic era having a tertiary and the quaternary period. The dinosaurs here were present in this Jurassic period. The last evolved, that is the human, here quaternary. The period quaternary, Cenozoic era, Holocene epoch, in that the Homo sapiens sapien, which are now running, working, and surviving as a dominant species on the earth. This geological time scale here you are giving a clear cut idea during which period, which era, which plants, animals survive and shows the dominancy on the earth surface. Here, this diagram indicating the line of human evolution. The Australopithecus, about Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthals, and Homo sapiens, that is called as the modern man. This shows the also increasing cranial capacity in a stepwise manner. Now, this is about the origin and evolution of life. Thank you.